The hard part is the political one.
Okay, we are going to call to order the Point Roberts Community Advisory Committee on November 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m. First item is approval of the agenda. Second,
Me.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have approval of August, September, and October minutes.
Yay.
Because we actually have a quorum and, and here's, there we go.
Al, are you on the Al book? It looks like you're on your.
He's
computer
just the
account.
spare.
I'm like a tire, you know.
We
like
should be on Al.
I'm like the guy you take on the date, you got two and I'm in the back seat.
It looks like
Okay.
you're on your computer.
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, there we go. The audio was on Al, but
Oh, got it.
the video was not on Al. There we go. Okay, so approval of August, September, and October minutes.
I'll give you a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's done. Next, we have correspondence. Brian?
The county reinstated the climate action program in their budget, therefore that item has been removed from the agenda. That was correspondence we received. Also, we did get communication from the Taxpayers Association regarding the amendment to Title 22, and if we could amend the agenda, just so you can mention what's going on.
Okay, so motion to amend the agenda, we can put it after the Lily Point parking lot to add update for Title 22.
Yes, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes for the agenda amendment. First, we have public comment. If anyone has anything they would like to discuss that is not on tonight's agenda in the room, please just raise your hand. Seeing none, anyone online have anything that is not on the agenda that they would like to speak about? Seeing none, we will move on. First item is we have Sheila and Robin here from the Department of Ecology for the water adjudication. Sheila or Robin, do either of you, do you want me to make you a co-host so you can share screen?
That would be great.
Yes, Sheila should be the screen sharer.
And I see that I have an option here. So should I try and share now?
I'm just gonna make you a co-host to make this easy.
Okay.
There we go.
perfect.
You are good to go.
Okay. So one moment while I just get my screen up here. Can everyone see my screen?
No.
No, we're seeing you.
Not yet.
Okay. Still not yet, huh?
No, let me just double check. Yep, you
Okay.
said as co-host, so you should be able to share screen.
Okay, we'll try that again because I'm showing I'm sharing. So let's try that again.
Now we're gonna share.
Okay.
There we are. I see it, Sheila.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Excellent. Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm Sheila Coughlin, and I'm with Robin McPherson, Ecology's Adjudications Manager. I'm the engagement planner for the WIRO 1 Nooksack area adjudication. And we're really happy to be here, to be with you, and we're just glad that we've been invited by the Point Roberts Community Advisory Committee. And this meeting came about because I met Elizabeth Mason in Ferndale for a presentation about the adjudication that was put on by Whatcom County Public Works. So our presentation will last about 30 minutes, and we'll have about 10 minutes for questions. And the goal of our presentation is to give you a better understanding of the adjudication process, We also want to explain why Point Roberts is included in it, and we'll outline some actions that you may need to take and offer resources for you to learn more about the adjudication. So here's our agenda today. Water law, what and why of adjudication and topics specific to Point Roberts, court claim form information, and a bit about new water use. And like I said, our goals of the presentation are really to give you a better understanding of the adjudication. We do have some group agreements we hope you agree to. Please stay muted if you're joining us online. And if you have questions, we kindly request that you put them in the chat. And we'll have about 10 minutes at the end of the presentation to respond if we can. And I do want to just have you keep in mind that our presentation will cover some high-level information. Adjudication is a complex topic, and when we're asked questions, sometimes we need to consult additional resources or consider our responses carefully in order to give you accurate information. So for any questions we can't address immediately, we're going to provide you with our email and phone. It's our resource mailbox where you can email or call us, and we typically respond within 3 business days. It's actually usually faster. Okay, let's get started. Thanks, everyone. And here's Robin.
Thank you, Sheila. Just like Sheila, I'd like to thank everybody for inviting us to your group tonight. I know you have other business to do and a lot of responsibilities in your community, and we're grateful to be on the agenda. I want to first answer the headline question that I know is on everyone's minds, and I'm going to get to this within the presentation, but I don't want to bury it and like make it all dramatic. And that is that adjudication will not affect most people in Point Roberts, and that is because it does not directly impact water service customers unless they have their own separate well or surface water diversion. I want to just reassure you about that at the top. I know that probably gives you more questions, and I'm going to get to those, but I just wanted to go ahead and state that as a headline here at the top, and then we can listen for it when I get there in a few slides from now. So the first thing I want to talk about, my job for the state of Washington Department of Ecology is to manage adjudications. We are doing this adjudication of YRO 1. I'll have a map of that in a moment. My background is as a water resources attorney. I've been an attorney for over 20 years and worked in water resources for about 15. So I know a lot of ins and outs of this. I also sometimes need to be slowed down if I jump into legalese. Or otherwise make things a little confusing for people. Sheila's very good at keeping me on track for that. And hopefully our presentation defines all of our terms for you and moves at a pace that is useful for you. Also, at the end, we will be able to give you links to more information, and we'll also share these slides so you don't feel like you have to take a picture of your screen or rush to take notes as we go. So the first question here is, who has the legal right to water? And when we talk about water here, we are talking about our fresh water resource in streams, lakes, and aquifers that we use in our daily life. And that could be for our homes, for farms, and it is also water that is used in Washington State, relied upon for in-stream habitat for fish. Water in that sense is a public resource. And even though water runs across the land and under the land, it is not automatic with land ownership. Under the law of the state of Washington, water is more like air or sunshine or something that belongs to all of us. But the problem is, unlike air or sunshine, water can be consumed, and there can be less of it at the end of the day than there was in the morning if someone turns it on and uses that water. So the important thing about water is that it is a public resource, and just because somebody owns a piece of land, I can go out and purchase a piece of land out here in the country in Thurston County if I want, but that does not mean that I automatically can drill a well and take all the water I want. And so then the question is, what are the laws around water and how much can we use and what for? Well, the state of Washington regulates water by the doctrine of prior appropriation. And prior appropriation means first in time is first in right. And that is an old, almost like an Old West kind of water law, and a doctrine that came about during the colonial era and settlement of the West, where there would be people moving into an area who had consumptive water uses, and more consumptive water uses than the original population, native populations, and would get in disputes and had private property rights and disputes, for instance, over using water perhaps on a stream. The easiest way to imagine it is using water on a stream for having some cows on the stream. And then someone goes in upstream, decides to put a farm in, and they put it in a dam or a dike and stop that water from coming down the stream. And the law in that situation is not that you get all the water on your property, because a stream could go over both parcels of property, but that the person who was there first has seniority over the person who comes next or later. And that is what the law considers as fair. It's true not only of streams, but of groundwater and aquifers as well. And the reason for that is that when there is not enough water for everybody, it's considered fair to protect the person or the use that was there first, has already invested in that use and already relies on that use, against someone who comes in new. And that is the law. There's a lot of different opinions about whether that's the best way, the fairest way. There's concerns about maybe that is favors older users too much and disadvantages newcomers, but that is the law that we have to work with in the state of Washington. So there are two important points I want to make about prior appropriation. We have a big state regulatory system in the state of Washington for water rights. Ecology maintains what we call our permit system, our permit records. Those include water right permits that people applied for, came to the department and asked for permission to use water. Those are, we use the word permit system, but they could be permits, certificates. There can be other documents like claims, there can be modifications, amendments, but we do have a great deal of documents at the Department of Ecology, and these are your water right records. They are not on record at the county like you would go for your title records or your property history that would be at the assessor's office in Bellingham for Whatcom County. Ecology maintains the water records in a different recording system. And we do have that online, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The other important point of this is that there is a permit exemption for certain groundwater uses, and that is in 1945 when they adopted the groundwater code, when they were realizing that aquifers as well as streams have a finite amount of water in them, and adopted a permit requirement for groundwater. There was an exemption for certain kinds of wells, and that exemption is generally up to 5,000 gallons per day for a well, and I will talk about that in a little bit as well. The next point I'd like to make is that there are limited responsibilities also of counties under the water code. And since you're in Whatcom County, I'll just speak to that. Whatcom County has the responsibility if someone applies for a building permit for like a new house to be sure that there is water legally available. So if you wanted to build a new house in Point Roberts, you would need to go to the county and check a box or whatever their mechanism is these days exactly, but to say this will be connected to Point Roberts water, for instance. If you were out in the county, outside of Linden, outside of Deming, in rural Whatcom County, you might say, I will be relying on a permit exempt well. And in that case, the county would give you certain requirements about your well use, because the county is responsible for ensuring that water is legally available for those wells. The county also has responsibility for general growth planning in the county, and that is zoning, parcel size limitations, and all of the kinds of things that the county does in something like their comprehensive plan. That ties into water. The comprehensive plan of the county does not exactly tell you where water will be available or whether that it is guaranteed that it will be available, but those two things are tied together. So the county and the state both have responsibilities there. Also, an important part, it is really truly last but not least, are tribal and federal water rights. And these are water rights that are alongside state water rights in the water right system. Tribal water rights in the area of Point Roberts are claimed by Lummi Nation and also by Nooksack tribe. Nooksack, which has reservation land up in the Deming area, also does claim fishing rights. They are a treaty tribe that signed the Treaty of Point Elliott along with Lummi Nation in the 19th century. And both tribes claim water right throughout what we'll call the Waira, the area that we're talking about. Those water rights are potentially in prior appropriation very early. Tribes claim water for their reservation land. They have water as of the date of their reservation, the date of their treaty, and they can also claim water before that time, before anything was written down, which is called time immemorial claims. And those are very early rights to water that would, on the face of them, be senior to any state water rights. We don't know at this time how much or where exactly tribes claim water rights in this area. We also know that the federal government, the United States, has water rights. They are the trustee through the Bureau of Indian Affairs for tribes, and they also are private landowners, for instance, in the Mount Baker National Forest. At the border, the United States owns real estate at the border crossings themselves. I don't know if they have wells there or if they're on city water there. I have a feeling that in some of them they might have wells, but we're going to find that out in this process. And so there are federal water rights in that situation as well. Okay, next slide, please, Sheila. And if I am going too slowly, Sheila, will you give me the signal, the hurry up signal? Okay, thanks. So this is what we call Water Resource Inventory Area 1. It's called the Nooksack Waira because the Nooksack is the dominant feature of it, but it is larger than the Nooksack River system. So I know we've called it the Nooksack because we look at maps of the entire state and there are 62 watersheds in the state. So when I look at the map, I say Chehalis, Walla Walla, Skamakawe, Spokane, even though there's more, Chelan, Klickitat, we are looking at these river systems, Wenatchee, and we call this one Nooksack, just like we call to the south the Skagit, and to the south of that we call it, there's a Stillaguamish and other Wairas. But a Waira is like a county. It is the entire area until it hits another Waira. So the Nooksack River itself does have a very important drainage in the area, but the management area carves out this entire corner of the state. And you'll notice it's called Waira 1, and that is because it's at the very top in the corner when they made the map and numbered the Wairas. That is not why we're starting with it right now in adjudication land, because it's number 1, but I'll get to that in a moment, but that's one way to remember it. And so the adjudication has identified the entire area for adjudication, and that includes Point Roberts. It includes Lummi Island. It also includes areas north of the Nooksack River, like the Sumas River system that drain into Canada. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I will just let you know we had a lot of conversations about that at Ecology, whether we wanted to only include the Nooksack River itself, which is a highly, contested and priority habitat system. And we did directly make the decision to include the entire Waira, which is what we have done in this process. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is about the future of Washington water. Less water, more demand. That's do they call it TRDL, TLDR these way? Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't try. Less water, more demand is the buzzword there. And there's a lot of different ways to model this. There's a lot of different science on climate change, on precipitation, snowpack, rainfall cycles. But no matter how we slice it, no matter how we look at it, it is difficult to to be optimistic about having more water for consumption, especially in the summers in the future. And that's just the hard truth. I wish it were different, but this is the world that we're in, and it's the world that we really need to plan for to do our job as state water managers and in our communities as well. And so what we see with the climate trends are that it is hotter overall, measurable in degrees, with less snowfall in the winter, even if we have more rain. I'm in Olympia, we have a ton of rain. I know that the Whatcom County area and the lowlands have a lot of flooding, but there are drier summers. And the challenge with that is that the summers are drier when everybody needs water most. They turn it on to water their lawns and their crops. And that also where there are fish populations is when the fish need it as well. And so the truth of this is that even where outdoor water use is legal, it is not guaranteed forever. We are looking at more drought situations and more water short situations that may not rise to the level of a legally declared drought, but that are high pressure water situations where there is not enough water for everyone. And that is why, just skipping to the last bullet, we need to look at big picture solutions to have sustainable water management in Washington. There are infrastructure solutions that we're hoping to find, and there are mitigation solutions, which means we won't use water here if we use it over there, or sometimes physically move water from point A to B. So take it off this property because we really don't need it there. We'll stop doing some irrigation there so that we can do it over here. Those kinds of solutions are needed. But the challenge with that is that we do not currently have an active count and inventory of all the water in the area that we would need to move forward with that. Next slide, please. So why adjudication? So Ecology recommended the use of adjudication for WIRO 1 water management in a report to the legislature in September 2020. It says September 2021 on there. I typed it wrong. I know it was 2020. Ask me how I know, because it was a pandemic and I was in my house writing a legislative report while I had a couple kids going to school online and so forth and wearing masks. That was 2020. We wrote the legislative report that's available on our website. What we did is we looked at needs for adjudication all over the state, requests from tribes for adjudication in different places, and need for improved water management in different places like Walla Walla and Spokane, and identified this area as a very high priority. What adjudication will do is look at how much water is, well, first it looks at how much water is being used so that we can then determine how much water is available. This will be helpful for strategies for future watershed planning. This also follows more than 30 years of previous unsuccessful efforts at collaborative water management in this area. There is very good water management, a planning unit, a WIRO 1 watershed management board that involves tribal governments, county, cities, and the state, and DNR. There are different kinds of science going on, research, agriculture. If you start to Google it, you'll see everybody has a website. And there's been a lot of work that goes on, a lot of habitat work, a lot of different kinds of studies, but these efforts have not led to any single settlement or any single solution. And so the legislature funded adjudication and made these recommendations in the 2021 and 2023 legislative sessions, which gets us to where we're at today. Next slide, please. So this is what adjudication is. Adjudication is a lawsuit. Ecology is the plaintiff. Ecology filed the adjudication in Whatcom County Superior Court on May 1st, 2024. Ecology identified property owners that are identified as rural property owners, and that means outside of a service area, and property owners that own land in the place of use of a water right document. And I'm going to have a map of that for you in a moment. That resulted in about 30,000 defendants countywide. That's a very large number, but it's not the entire parcel count of the county because it does not include, for instance, the city of Bellingham. The court will order Ecology to send a summons and forms to all 30,000 or so of those defendants. We're going to court. Sheila and I will be in Bellingham on December 3rd. And at that time, we anticipate that the Judge David Freeman of Whatcom County Superior Court, will order to send a summons. Now, it's court. Sometimes things take more time. And so far, it has taken a couple extra hearings. It's not because anything's wrong. It's not because people are fighting. It's because the judge wants to be sure everything is very clear. For instance, in the last hearing, the judge asked us to add a footer at the bottom of our claim form with the date so that in later versions we can see which form someone is using. It's really a very fine level of detail. So, pending that hearing, Ecology will send certified mail with court claim forms. And again, this does not include all water service customers. It will include rural parcel users off service water and those in a place of use of a water right in early 2025. And we are looking right now at mid-February because of just the timeline for printing, but that's not a promise. That's just to kind of give you a moment to breathe here and imagine this. We do have updates that Sheila will tell you about at the end so that you can have good information on the timeline. Once water users receive a form, they will have 1 year or more to complete the forms and submit them to Whatcom County Superior Court. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I know there's a question about why Point Roberts is included, and we have this map which gives us an aerial view. Why don't we go to the next map, and so we can see some ideas here of why we included Point Roberts. So the first point we have here is I have a snippet here of the letter that we got, the state of Washington, that is a petition for adjudication from Lummi Nation. I don't have the whole thing here because it's all in the first paragraph, which is that Lummi Nation asked for a general stream adjudication of all of Wyro 1. We are not doing this only because Lummi Nation asked, and Nooksack do have a parallel letter where they ask for the entirety of Wyro 1, but I know that Lummi Nation has been involved otherwise up and down the coast in different management, land management, and fisheries issues, and so I thought this would be a good one to share. The nature of these legal rights of the tribes are very serious. I work for the state of Washington, but I have been familiar with tribal fisheries and different treaty issues since I was a child on the coast in the 1970s. These are very important issues, the rights to fish. They're very important legal issues. And there's a lot of, I'll just say, gravity about these issues when you work for the state like we do. And our job is managing risk and ensuring certainty for the state, in this case, Department of Ecology and our water users that might have state water rights. We don't know what Lummi Nation's possible water right is to water in Wyro 1 unless this is adjudicated. They have in the past asked the United States to bring a lawsuit against the state of Washington. They actually did. Lummi Nation has sued us a couple of times. And we are actually great, neighbors with Lummi Nation. We work well with their staff and we're very familiar with them. So it's not that we're adversaries in every moment of our lives. If you ever have a chance to go to their first salmon ceremony at the school in May, they're great neighbors and hosts. But they do sue us. And they have done so when we passed our municipal water law. They've done so in what we call Bolt 2, which was the culverts litigation, which is why if you come onto the mainland here, you'll see a lot of road construction, building new bridges over fish-bearing streams. And also the Lummi Peninsula, which is the end here of the red area, kind of the tip of it across from Lummi Island, also has had a lawsuit about state water users of the aquifer on the reservation. And so that's 3 times that I know of, just off the top of my head. Lummi Nation did make a 4th request to the U.S. Department of Justice about 10 years ago saying, please sue the state of Washington for their water rights. We need our rights to be adjudicated. Only a judge can do this. If you read a treaty, it's in fact very short. It does not have gallons in it. It doesn't have maps. It doesn't hardly, well, there's a map, but it does not have the level of detail one would look for. And so we did spend many years thinking we would be sued again. And then we have in this process determined that one way for us to resolve this is by doing a state adjudication in state court. And in this process, we can bring the tribes into and the United States into the process in state court. And usually you can't do that, but we can with state law. And so this is a long way of saying that because tribes asked for the entire WIRA, and because in particular Lummi Nation has an interest in Point Roberts, and this is just a clip from the Lummi Nation Wetland and Habitat Mitigation Bank about the tribes, just to remind us that the tribes do have interest in the islands and Point Roberts. They have a lot to offer. They have a lot of experience, and they also have potentially rights to water and fish in these areas. Okay, next slide, please. This is the other reason that we need to adjudicate water in the Point Roberts area. This map is potential water rights in the Point Roberts area, and this is a map that was generated from our own mapping system. Now, as a first point, this is not all the wells. Anyone could have drilled a well, and this does not show the well, every single well that might have been drilled. These are wells, the circles are wells that are associated with a water right place of use. The green are water right certificates, and the blue are water right claims, which are kind of a different kind of document than a certificate. The triangles are what are listed on record as surface water diversions. And so that's what we've got on record at the Department of Ecology that we were able to generate. And that shows where water users might be using water or have a legal right to do so. Now, there's all different kinds of ins and outs about what the paper document means, what the history of water use is in general, but this is what we see on the map. And when we look at this, we realize we really do need an inventory and an accounting of where this water is being used, if this water is being used under these documents, and if so, what the history is. Now, there's something missing from this map, and that is that the entire area is also within the place of use of the Point Roberts Water District. And I might be getting the name wrong, but you all know there's a water district out here, and I think it was originally Whatcom County PUD, and now it's the water district, perhaps independent water district. There is a water system plan that includes the whole area. I don't have that place of use on there because it would have turned it all a different color. And so I lifted that off, but we are aware and we've looked at your water system plan and understand that it is all within the place of use of the water district. Okay, next slide, please. I think we're good for time, Sheila. Are we good? Okay. This is the one where you said I could put this many bullets on a slide if I didn't talk too much for each bullet. Okay, so here we go. So who completes a court claim form in the adjudication? And so we've told you that adjudication is a lawsuit, that water is regulated by prior appropriation, and the process is to submit a court claim form. You will receive one by certified mail and submit it in return. So, who is responsible for completing a court claim form? Property owners of private water rights, not those who only use water as a water system customer. I am a customer of the City of Tumwater. I don't have my own well. So City of Tumwater is the holder of the water right of the water that comes into my house. And so most people in Point Roberts are customers of your water system. They will not need to fill out a form. The water system itself will need to fill out a form. And that is also true of any small group systems or shared wells or any of those other places of use that are using water for any purpose, whether that is a house, whether it is a stock watering operation. I don't know if anybody's doing that out there, just, you know, where you've got a bunch of cows walking around, they drink out of a well, little farms, big farms, whatever might be going out there that are using water other than what they pay the water system for. If the water system is a group, the manager or authorized representative will need to be involved in that and submit a claim. For permit exempt wells in Point Roberts, because your permit exempt wells are nested all in a service area, that will be in a later phase. And I have a little more information for that on another slide. I don't know how much of an issue that is in your area. I mean, some places it's a bigger issue than others. But who completes a form here? These are people who will get the form. It will have instructions. It will also have an email and phone number and website where we can help you. If you say, did I get this on accident? Here's what the water I use, and we'll say, oh, you can ignore it, or, oh, yes, you better fill it out. There will be that kind of help available. Help will also be available from Whatcom County itself. We understand that ecology is in a position in this that not everybody necessarily wants us to be the ones that help them. The county is also available for help. If you're doing agricultural irrigation, there are also farm groups that are available to help as well. Once you receive a form, you can file it online, or you can mail it, or you can deliver it, walk into the courthouse in Bellingham to file that form. There is a 1-year period to do that, so these are not due until 2026. The form itself will ask for basic water information. It asks for the date of the first water use, the current and highest past use, the current and greatest areas irrigated, and the locations of diversion, withdrawal, and use, and then document numbers if you have one. So if you're on that prior slide with the numbers, with the green and blue, you can go on our website and find your document number, and we can help you do that. We know that not everybody has this information at their fingertips. People don't have Post-its on the refrigerator that say these things. You don't use this information every day. We have ways that we can help with that. There's ways that you can estimate this. It does not need to be metered. There are calculators on the county website. If you say, well, I know my granddad had 10 acres and he did it every summer, there's ways you can estimate on that, and that is adequate. It is the kind of thing that needs to be filled out accurately to the best of your knowledge and signed. It is unfortunately $25 to file. That is the court's filing fee to process the document. There are fee waivers available. Okay, next slide, please, Sheila. So again, here's the overall adjudication timeline. Adjudication starts, it started in 2024 with being filed. We've been doing planning and setup and details like that with the court. Early 2025, involved water users will receive forms by certified mail. In 2026, water users will fill out the forms and return them. And then over the time after that, ecology will review the forms, make a recommendation to the court, tell the water user, and then the court will make a final ruling on the water right. Most of these will be fairly straightforward. Most of the time we will say, oh, this is what you said, sounds good, we'll recommend it to the court. An important part of this process is that people have the ability to object, though, to their own or others' claims. And so if you don't agree with ecology's finding on your water right, or perhaps your neighbors, there's an objection part of that process. An important part of this process, too, is that tribes will also be submitting claims in this process, and those will be reviewed and subject to objection in court. An important part for Point Roberts is that we do understand that there are some wells, standby wells, so to speak, that are drilled and potentially producing wells in the Point Roberts area. We understand that the water district has contract water from the city, from Canada, and that is fine. The Canadian water is not adjudicated in this because its well is not in the state of Washington. That is international water. That's not state of Washington water. So that's water that you buy. That water is not adjudicated. But if there is water that is taken out of Washington water, which is aquifers underneath or streams within Point Roberts, that water needs to be claimed in this case. Municipal water is its own body of law. I'm not able to go into right now, but I just will say that the concept is that for future planning and ongoing planning, it really is good for a water district to know, for instance, can this water be relied on, or is this somehow tribal water? Now, you know more about your area than I do. You might say, I have no idea how Lummi Nation could care about this water or how it relates to things. And all I will say about that, I can't speak for them, but it really is their assertion and their case to make. And I really respect that and want to hear the case because I often learn a lot when I do listen. There's shellfish issues, there's salinity issues, and there's other kinds of things that go on. And it's just, as far as the process goes, this is the moment that we're going to hear this because this is the time when we hope that tribal water questions will be resolved in this entire area. And that way we'll be able to know for future planning. Okay, next slide, Sheila. Okay, this is for new use in Point Roberts. I don't know how much new use goes in that is not on water system water. The permit exemption applies. Adjudication claims will be again in a later phase if you have your own well. That is not a if you don't get served at this time, then the deadline doesn't apply to you. That's a later phase. But I will say, hire a licensed well driller if you are drilling. Now, there's a part of the law where you can do it yourself if it's your own property, but it is very worthwhile to hire a licensed well driller to drill your well. Be sure they have a professional license and reputation and that they know how to do the paperwork. That is notice of intent and well log and reports. That's important. For uses that exceed the permit exemption or surface water uses, you do need to apply for a permit to the Department of Ecology. And I just have a couple notes here. This isn't my department, or it's not my section, but there is a consultation form and an online application if you are interested in a water right permit for doing something new with your own diversion or withdrawal of water. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here's the next steps. Sheila, were you going to do this one or was this for me to do?
Oh, you can do this one and I'll take it over from the next
Okay.
slide.
Okay, so next steps. What can you do after today? You're going to sleep on this. You're going to wake up and say, what was that all about? And I want to learn more about it. We do have a website with a lot of good information on it. We do have documents available online that are scanned in and searchable. So the version of the map I showed you, there is a clickable version online. And if one of those was your property, you could click and see what documents you have. And that's a good way to start getting ready. It's also good to learn about your water use if you're not on water system water, to just start paying attention to it if you have a well. And there are resources at Whatcom County for doing that. Just how much do you use? Do you use more in the summer? How much are you watering? What kind of operation are you doing? Do you have farmers market vegetables? Do you have a lot of cows? It actually takes a lot of cows to get above the permit exemption. I don't think Point Roberts has this many cattle up there, but you never know. And we want to have the information available if you do. And then be ready to receive your certified mail. Like I said, maybe the February timeframe for that. Okay, Sheila, next slide.
Okay, so have any of you seen our flyer hanging around? Any of you?
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. Excellent. So as you know, and as Robin mentioned, the adjudication affects a lot of people, approximately 31,000. And our job is, or part of our job, and mostly my job, is to ensure that everyone affected can learn about the adjudication, file a claim form if needed, and moving forward, align with the regulatory requirements, like stick to the rules so that legal water is being used and it benefits both people and the environment. So we have many resources and are continually developing more. As you can see in the picture, we created this flyer hoping to capture some of the audience that might not have an online presence. We also have a website that's regularly updated with the latest information, and it includes links to other websites. So the ecology website isn't where you'll find everything. We do have links to Whatcom County Public Works and the Whatcom County Superior Court that have a lot of good information on their websites. And we collaborate with Whatcom County Public Works through a technical assistance grant. And Robin mentioned this. They've recently published a water use calculator to help you estimate your water usage, and that's available on their website. I'm going to give you those links at the end of the presentation. We also offer, we have a customer service line where people can email or call us with their questions. And like I said earlier, we typically respond within 3 business days. A lot of times it's within 24 hours. And Whatcom County Public Works also has a phone and email hotline. And I'll give you all these links at the end. We also produce a monthly e-newsletter that covers topics related to the adjudication, the claim form, timelines, and answers to frequently asked questions. So I encourage you to sign up for that and stay informed. And then lastly, Ecology is set to release in the next few days a new online PRCAC adjudication map. And that's what Robin was talking about entering an address or clicking on a map where water users can access their documents. So that'll be posted on our website once that launches. And that information will also help water users fill out some questions on the court claim form. So here's our contact information. We're going to share our slides with you. But if you have a phone and you want to scan the QR code, that'll bring you to our website. We have a new video on our front page, which does a great job of just basically introducing the adjudication. And there's also a link so you can sign up for our e-newsletter. And our phone number and email are also on the website. And you can just, like I said, if you don't have questions this evening, but they come up later, you're welcome to reach out to us. Okay, so we have, I would say just about 10 minutes for questions. And so I thought the way we would do this is if people put questions in the chat, Robin will answer them and maybe follow up with you if she needs more information. And we'll
So
just,
Sheila, I'd like to start with we actually have people in the room who came for this,
Okay.
so that they could go first. So that way those who are online could be followed up with
Yeah.
possibly if we run out of time. But the people who came here in person, I'd like them to be able to ask their questions first.
Sure. I just as a reminder, I started off by saying that, adjudication is complicated. Our goal is to give you the most accurate information. So if we can't answer your questions tonight, we will get back to you. And if we don't get to your questions tonight, be sure to email or call us with them.
Okay, I'm gonna start in the room. Stephen Falk.
Yes, thank you. I noticed that my property is not on that map you showed of Point Roberts, even though it has had a well for probably 110 years. And I wondered what the significance of that was. And I did get either I got a mailing about this issue already a year or two ago and submitted something, or maybe I just saw some information and submitted something on my own, but I wonder if that means I'll get some of the documentation that's coming up in February, even though I'm not showing up on that map.
Yes. So the map is of recorded water right places of use. If I don't know, did you get a postcard in the April timeframe? There was a postcard we sent out in April from Ecology, and also Whatcom County did send out some information. Yeah, the best thing to do about your specific property is to contact us again by call or email. Our staff is really good. They have access to the live map at their desk. They can take your address and tell you what they see about your water. And if they don't see you in the place of use with a water right, they will send you information about the historic permit exemption and let you know what that means for you. They can also tell you whether or not you're on our defendant list. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room have any questions? Elliot?
Yeah, hi, Elliot Smith. I just have a quick clarification question. If a Point Roberts property owner had a well on their property that they did not use, but wanted to make sure they could use in an emergency in the future, we have some problems with our water system. Does that need to be registered? Even though there's no water coming out of it at this time? Asking for a friend.
Okay, so the adjudication asks for current and past water use. And so that's the important thing to look at, whether you are currently or have in the past used water. We know wells can be drilled and not used. And so I would just read the form really carefully to see if it applies to you, and then call if you have questions, because we'll have more specific answer that depends on the area. And I don't know the specific answer, for instance, in Point Roberts, that might apply to future well use. But the point of the adjudication is to look at who is already there taking water out of the system, and to kind of count and inventory that current and past use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Barrett? Nope, you're good. Anyone else? Okay,
Actually, I've got one
Oh.
follow-up, if I could.
Stephen's got a follow-up.
Well, listening to your answer to the last question, what actually is the outcome years from now on this adjudication? So if somebody is has used water, is using water, and now it goes through this whole process, and at the end, someone is told to use less, or they're told to use, that they're fine, or what is the actual outcome of this whole adjudication?
Yeah, thank you. So the outcome of the adjudication is the court will review water use and the law, and issue a decree that orders everyone in prior appropriation. The important thing about that decree is that it inventories everybody, so we know who is out there for purposes of, you know, being accountable to the United States on endangered species, and talking to the tribe and other big picture issues like that. It also will delineate what the legal water use is, and have it on a water right to be clear if people use more than they're entitled to in the future. And the important thing about that is, if people are using water right now without any water right, even though they're not supposed to, that will put them on a list, and they will be able to be reviewed in the future if they're using water that they're not legally entitled to protect the people who do have a legal right in the order of prior appropriation.
Thank you.
Bennett?
I think I heard earlier there's a mention about a minimum use to be exempted from for this was, what was it? So many gallons per day, was it?
5,000.
5,000? I think that's well less than what you would ever use.
That's one word I've ever used.
Yeah.
So there is a permit exemption of 5,000 gallons per day, but that doesn't exempt you from the adjudication. If we don't know you have a well right now because you're not on our list, you will be in a later phase, and we'll have more information about that later. And then if people just have a house on a well, we have a special section of the form where you can just say, this is just my house. I'm not doing any other watering there. And there's different quantity limits on that will be on the form. But we do need to know where eventually we need to know where people are using up to 5,000 gallons per day, because those do add up over time. And if we do, which we have had conversations with tribal fisheries managers saying, come on, you don't really care about little old creek over here, do you? They will say, who's there? How much water is being used, and how can you tell us that it won't get worse? Because that's really the tribal view of things, is how do we know what's happening if you don't even have a list of it? And that's part of the goal.
Robin, how does this process impact, or does it at all impact, groundwater diversion for property protection purposes? If somebody's got French drains, something like that, where the water isn't being used but simply moved, does that have does this process have any bearings on systems like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And in general, we have water rights if water is consumed, if it's consumptive, and not if it's just being drained, moved from one place to another. But the person to talk to about that is our Bellingham field office, and we can hook you up with them if you call this number too. And they're also, if you are the kind of person who's comfortable with a website, making your way around the website, that information should be on there too. That's a really good question though.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we regulate water for quote beneficial use, which includes stream habitat, but that I don't think is beneficial use, but I'll stop before I guess and try to do someone else's job because that's not my job.
Anyone else? Case, I don't see anyone else in the room. If anyone online, you can put your questions into the chat. Or like they said, you can email them or give them a call if you would prefer to do that.
I put the resources. I don't know if everyone can see the chat, but I did put in our phone number, our email, and Whatcom County's phone and email as well. So we have
Hey.
time for one or two more questions if there are any more.
But we don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't want to take your meeting time if you have other business.
I'll stop.
Yeah.
No more questions.
Yeah.
I can smell my dinner. I'm at home. I can smell my dinner downstairs, but I'm here for
I don't blame you.
late
Don't
dinner.
blame you. I don't see anyone online, so I will say thank you to both of you for coming and giving us this information. I will also, I've taken a screenshot of this so we can put out the information as well for anyone who wasn't able to attend tonight. And I know the All Point Bulletin is here, so they will probably have it in their article as well, so that people will have multiple ways of getting the information.
And I'll email Elizabeth the slides so she has them to share.
Well, we also record this and put it out on
Oh,
YouTube, so
great.
people can go
Okay.
onto YouTube and watch the whole thing all over again.
Sounds good.
Thank you again.
Thank you all for having
Thank
us. I
you.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us. Good night.
So our next item is broadband, which was going to be an update. I noticed Martha was on, but I'm not sure if she's left.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there's Martha. Hi, Martha.
Yeah, we ask for a continuance, speaking of adjudication,
For December.
until December. Our COO, Donna, who usually presents to you guys, was called out of town for family. And so we don't have anything specific to update you. I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have. Right now, all we know is that we await the final determination from the USDA that we can resume work. And so we've done all of our homework. All of the different entities have done their homework. All the reports are into the USDA. We await their decision on when we can restart work. So fingers crossed, knock wood, whatever lucky rabbit's paw you have, whatever it takes. Hopefully by this meeting next month, we will know what's going on. So that's the update.
Anyone have any questions other than obviously what we always want to ask?
Yeah.
Which, as you have said, that, you know, right now the answer is we don't have an answer. Is that correct?
Well, and as we know, there'll be quite a shift in federal staffing and policies in January. So we are hopeful that this gets resolved before the administration changes. So knock wood.
Okay, Atul Dashmani was going to join us today, but it doesn't appear that he's been able to. The last time I spoke with him, the update they had is they were filing, and had received some of the poll rights. But we're still waiting for the rest of their poll rights, through PSE. Because you have to have poll rights with PSE to be able to put your infrastructure on the polls. So they're just continuing that process, and once they get all their poll rights, then they go to the next step. So it is again, one of those work in processes, waiting to hear back from PSE on poll rights.
Any time frame on that?
When PSE gets back.
Could be the 12th of May.
So the next is just the cable Loretta Cable, Elizabeth, you want to give everyone just a quick update on your conversations with county?
Okay, so the county is suing Eastlink. They had a three-plan strategy. The first was to send out a demand letter. There was no response. The second was a certified letter, no response. So now they are suing them. So I haven't heard anything back from Public Works, but it's in process. So hopefully, maybe next year, who knows how long it will take those hanging wires, cables will.
To get rid of the derelict
Yeah.
old Delta cable
Yeah.
wires that are hanging, so
They'll
the,
sell it.
yeah, the county has a stage process that they have to do. But we're in the last one.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if you've seen the suit or not, but what are they suing them for? To act? For money
They're
to
suing
do it?
them for violation of the franchise rights, because when they came to the point to put cable around the point,
Right,
it was stated that when they no longer service the point, they would remove all
Right.
of that.
So they would have to come do it, or they would get charged for it, or they would
That, yeah,
pay a cash settlement for the county to do it?
that's right.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, Delta Cable is no more, but they sold everything to Eastlink. Eastlink, in addition to, servicing, Greater Vancouver, they also work in the States in other areas. So it's within their, interest to get this rectified. So we'll see.
get it done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item is update on economic development strategy, and thank you, Elliot, for coming and to give us that information. I did share all the documents with the PRCAC,
Great.
so if you want to give us your.
Yeah, I'm here in two capacities tonight. I'm a resident of Point Roberts since February 2001. I can, so I'm very interested in seeing this be a healthy community. You'll see me around from time to time. Although during the work weeks, I work for the Port of Bellingham, which is an independent municipality under Washington law. We are separate from Whatcom County. Although in one area, we share responsibilities, and that is that the Economic Development Director and his department for the county operate out of the Port of Bellingham, under the Port of Bellingham. So half funded by the county and half funded by the port. So hopefully that's helpful. My role at the port is as the real estate director. We handle the various shipping facilities and office buildings and hotels, et cetera, around Bellingham, Fairhaven, the Bellingham International Airport, and Blaine, and a few agricultural things, which made the previous presentation quite interesting to me. So it's been quite obvious to me since the day my wife Kara and I moved to Point Roberts that we could be doing more to try to get resources in here to improve our infrastructure, improve our economy without ruining the character of who we are here, which is also quite important. About 6 months ago, I was invited to come to one of your fellow organizations, the Taxpayers Association. I came on a Zoom call and I brought with me Gina Salk, who is with the Economic Development Department at the port, but also on behalf of the county. And we were asked about economic development studies. We were asked what funds were available. And we determined at that time that there were CURB grant funds available. And after some lengthy discussion of some previous attempted tourism project here, we said, well, let's continue talking in Point Roberts and see what we can do about trying to get some resources. because I live here and wanted to maintain some level of separation and impartiality, I handed most of that activity over to Gina, but paid attention from the background. At a certain point, with help from members of the community here, we were able to ascertain that there was approximately 72,000 available as a curb grant to do economic development strategy studies. It needed a matching grant, which the Port of Bellingham and the county agreed to make. So that's now 6-month-old history or so. At that point, we moved to start to fulfill that wish and use the money. We put out a request for proposals. We got 3 proposals back, which I did not review nor score. So I'm reporting about those things today, and I purposely stayed out of that. I have passed the scoring sheet, the original proposal, and all 3 proposals completely to this group. I've also passed them to the Taxpayers Association, to the Chamber of Commerce, and to our lovely community newspaper. So I'm aiming for some transparency there. Not sure it will work or not, but so I'd invite you to have a read through those. You can maybe try comparing the 3 proposals we got. There was obviously hard work put into all 3 of them. But reviewing that myself, I'm quite confident that the reviewers did a good job comparing those proposals. Long and the short of it, one party was selected and was awarded that contract at a commission meeting earlier this month, I believe, or late last month. That was Mal Foster Alongi. And you have their proposal. I think they're gonna do quite a good job for Point Roberts. They have done elsewhere in the state of Washington. There is one change from what is in their proposal, and that was their method of local data collection. One other thing has changed. My colleague Gina Sonk, who did I think a lovely job preparing this and spending a lot of time on the phone and Zoom, unexpectedly resigned recently. I don't think there's any high drama there. I think it's a personal circumstance. I hope we see her again in the county elsewhere, because she's absolutely lovely to work with, if any of you have worked with her before. But it was intended that the roughly 89,900 that's awarded in the grant to do the strategy study, it's intended that that be expended only on the study and the report to follow. Additional staffing was to be done by Gina, to a small extent myself, and by the port's economic development director, Tyler Schroeder, who many of you may know as well. With Gina gone, we said, wait a minute, there's now a gap. I'm not going to be able to spend as much time on it as she would have, nor might not be appropriate, since I am a resident here and we want some objective thought into this. So we've now asked this company, Mal Foster Alongi, to come here to do their data collection, their interviews. I expect they will be in contact with this body, the chamber, the taxpayers, and population in general, to draw in ideas, collect any other past studies or ideas that we may not know about, to contact the water board, as was mentioned earlier, to talk to groups like Resilient Point Roberts, to talk to our fire chief, to talk to local businesses directly, and then blend that together with their economic development, sort of more online and data centered studies. I hope that the outcome of that is different from the economic development study that was done 20 odd years ago or something approximately in that. That was a study, and I think we could probably find it on the shelf in here or the library. But it didn't produce an actionable, practical plan. I'm hoping that this study ends up approximately a year from now. This study ends up as being a roadmap where we, all of us, can start to pitch in and say, okay, here's what needs to happen on water, sewer, sanitation, drainage, tourism, business environment and licensing, cross-border issues, tax issues, gas tax issues, everything that we're interested in here as a community. And then start to go after the resources to actually make some things happen from some of those. It's great when we get on the news. That's not a program. It's not a path to further grants. It's not a path to being on the county's budget or the state's budget, or even on, if they are still around, on federal grants for some of these things. So, yeah, I can answer any questions you have. But yeah, that's where they are. Oh yeah, and start date was meant to be towards the end of October. I think it will be more like the first week of December, again, because of our staff changeover.
I have a question.
Sure.
The grant was for $74,000 and you said that they had to come up with matching funds for it. So that would be 100
No,
40.
no, it's 15 matching funds, not matching, but
Yeah, it was a percentage.
I can look up the exact numbers
Was it
for
wasn't
you.
100% matching funds?
no.
No,
Okay. That's
it was a
what I'm
percentage,
saying.
I
yeah.
think it's approximately 72 and approximately 18, but I'm doing that from memory and.
Well, you
been a long
just
time.
said matching funds earlier. And
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
I
Just
understand
shy
what
of
I'm looking at.
80
What's
of
the
90.
difference there?
Yeah, I think I remember when I talked to Gina in the beginning and I started making the phone calls, the request was for 15. It was 15,000 that we
Yeah,
needed,
Yeah,
cause yeah, whatever the percentage was.
Yeah, when you say matching funds.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
matching.
My area, though it had a requirement for a percentage of matching funds. I think your memory serves you right, it was 15%.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
So, anyone else in the room, or I got people with their hands up online? Lee, you have your hands up?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to try to get either PRAC or the chamber to give us the links to those plans. I had requested them after the chamber meeting, but I haven't received anything, so I'm anxiously awaiting some way to read these different plans, and I'm hoping that the plans, of course, are just something that gives us an outline and that we as a community will tweak. That would be probably pretty primary in this whole idea of an economic development plan. Thanks.
Yeah, Leah, I think I saw you at the Chamber of Commerce meeting as well. I did distribute all those documents. I have them in my hands right now. Are you able to create a link for those on your website?
We actually don't have a website.
Yeah,
We're on the county website.
No,
So I could see.
Leah, I think you emailed me. I'll go back and find your email. And
Yeah,
I'll send you those in the morning.
Yeah, or I can
Or
send
do you
them.
want to just forward it?
Well, I was gonna say, I can forward her them, but also I can check with the executive's office if, they can also put them on the PRCAC page that's on the Whatcom County site.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, I'll have to ask how to do that tomorrow,
Can't the
so.
Port Authority put them where the accepted, you already have the,
Yeah, I'll figure out how to put them on our.
Or if they
our
can go on
website.
your website, or, yeah, or, cause the PRCAC has a page on Whatcom County's website. And we put documents on there all
Oh,
the
yeah,
time.
I've seen your
So I could ask them to create a
Right.
little thing.
Okay, that would be an easy place. I can probably get them on the ports. They're public documents, so
Yeah.
anyone can request them.
But-
Yeah,
More places the better.
yeah.
But yeah, I can send that to, or Nell, one of us can send it to our liaison at the executive's office.
And the second part of Lee's question is, there is a scope of work that was requested and an output that was requested in the request for proposals. All three applications to execute this strategy study had slightly different ways of approaching that. But the document awarded the grant had a pretty strict methodology of how they would collect that data. But that absolutely included gathering information directly here from the community. So I think that is your way to input directly. And remember, this is a process that's going to run over the next 11-ish months. I don't want Bennett to ding me for saying the wrong date here.
No, you got it right.
It's somewhere
No, you got it right.
September, October next year. So we'll have some time, we'll have some visits here. Tyler Schroeder is at the expo tonight in Seattle for the marine industry. So he sends his regards. The next time he'll be coming, and I'll probably come more as a spectator. But yeah, certainly he'll be here with the Malfoster Alongi folks, who incidentally do have an office in Whatcom County in Bellingham now. And are actively working on a couple of other studies, so this isn't far away in Seattle. It's a local office executing the work, and you'll meet the people that work there.
Right, that alleviates a big concern of mine.
Leo, you had a question?
Yes, so you guys skipped through the Delta cable issue without asking if there was any comments or questions, and so I was wondering if we could return to that at some point.
Yeah, we can return to that when we, right after we're done this. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Does anyone else have any questions?
I do have one question.
There we go, Stephen.
It might be a part of what Lee mentioned. Is there an opportunity in this process, as far as you know, about how it's gonna be done? Not just to give that input that you're mentioning, where they'll come and talk to some various people in Point Roberts, but at some point when they've got like an almost completed plan to set, a pretty complete draft plan, but still a draft to somehow get, it may be a dangerous idea, because you're gonna get so many different ideas, maybe you don't even wanna open up that.
It's
can of
not the
worms.
third community
But,
meeting.
There are no ideas in this community. It's a very quiet place.
But it feels like it could be an opportunity to read what they say and say, what are they talking about? Is it they did not capture Point Roberts?
No, I did not catch reading through it that they would publish a draft or something like that, but I don't see why not. Yeah, let me carry that back. The answer may be here in the proposal of the award, but I don't know what else. When I find out, I'll answer back.
Thank you.
I thought they were
Brian?
gonna review it in the third community meeting.
Yeah, is there
And that could be correct. That sounds right.
once this study is complete, their strategy does it go to the port and the county for a public hearing?
I'm not sure. Another question I can answer.
Thank you.
What I know does happen with it is that we start to follow the threads that are developed in it, to seek, programs of action, a real activity, rather than a study we put on the shelf. And I think we've worked really hard to make sure that doesn't happen, because then I wasted my time and I hope you did also. And, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff to build on here. We just need to get it out there.
Mhm.
I can show you some television clips from national news that really highlight the place well.
We all live here, or I think most of us live here anyway, so I understand how fabulous it is.
Yeah.
Specifically sitting on this, with this group here, but, I see it as a very complicated and very difficult process. My background is, I don't know, 50 years of public agency land use planning and environmental concerns. From what I've seen, what little I've seen, and that's my caveat there. It seemed like it was just a economic and an infrastructure and probably some follow-up on all of the zoning and changes that need to occur. I worked for the state of Hawaii, working with their Department of Business and Economic Development for a number of years. They had a program that was called Genuine Progress Indicator. It added.
I've seen it.
Yeah, okay, it adds the social and the environmental, which I'm sure if you stay for the rest of this meeting, you're gonna see there's a lot of concerns about how the infrastructure is developed.
Yeah.
What we do, whether we pave stuff, whether we light everything up and all of that. So that's gonna be, I think, a real issue here, and that, I'm just throwing it out.
I think that nuance, we'll get into this study, and you're absolutely right on the first point. Incredibly complicated, and as I think everyone in this room well knows, this isn't a 1-year process.
Yeah,
It's 1 year, identify it. Use a bird dog to point, and then go after it for another 5 years until we've actually delivered it.
right.
The work around broadband is a great example of how difficult it can be to even do something simple. We have some good initiatives going here and some good things we can start with. And hopefully this helps us identify, there's resource there, we can go for it. This one, we might have to wait a little bit, or we'll keep looking. Here are 2 other resources, let's go after those and start pulling those in to get some action. I don't want to say what it's gonna come out at the end, but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna find some actionable items, but maybe not all of them right away. Then we just have to kind of stay on it. And that's me as the resident speaking, not me as the port employee. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, I think we all have to remember that we gotta start somewhere. We just gotta start at some point instead of saying, well, this should have been done. Well, nobody started it. At least we're starting it and creating a roadmap to hopefully start getting some of the items taken care of.
You bet.
So any other questions for Elliot? Seeing none, thank you so much, Elliot, for coming, not just as a Port of Bellingham, but as a resident of Plant Roberts.
Right, then I'll,
I appreciate it, seeing you twice in a couple of weeks.
That's exactly right.
So I will revert back to, the, cable issue. Leo, you had a question?
Yeah, so I and NOP Data Centers have recently started working on a project to actually bring broadband to Point Roberts. And so my question is, I don't quite understand what Whatcom County has to do with the old Delta system. So the pole attachment agreements were between PSE and Delta. These area above the surface of 30 feet out from the center line of the road actually is not considered, above that space is not considered the county right away. So I don't exactly understand why the county is involved with dealing with this, where this should actually be Puget Sound Energy's issue with the pole attachments.
Because my understanding through Public Works is part of their agreement was with Whatcom County in the sense of stating about removing them because those lines are no longer 35 feet in the air. Those lines, we're talking about the ones that have fallen and are lying in the right of way or lying in roads, and in which case that is in Public Works purview because it is in their right of way.
Okay, so right, I can understand that, and those should be removed. But as
So
far as
that's
the
what they're
actual,
going.
right, the stuff that's on the ground should either be raised back up or removed. And actually anything that's 15.5 feet above the right of way is just like above your house is considered public space. So,
Yeah, it's the derelict portion that they are trying to resolve.
okay,
That answers your question?
all right, thank you.
Okay. So the next item was, Whatcom County Parks, only, budget line item for Point Roberts being the paving of the Lily Point parking lot. And members wanted to discuss that. Linnell? Linnell? Sorry, Linnell?
Well, first of all, I don't think that the Parks Department checked with anybody in Point Roberts to find out if that would be a good use of funds. But I guess that's a moot point. Yeah, I've done a little talking to people. I live around the corner from Lily Point, and I've checked in with a lot of people who were there, parked cars and so forth. And one of the favorite things that I love to do is to count how many Canadian license plates are in the parking lot versus how many Washington State license plates. And there's always the vast majority of the license plates are Canadian. Not that that makes any big difference in terms of the parking lot, but just to keep that in mind, that a lot of the users, the majority of users of Lily Point, and I suspect the other 4 parks are not permanent residents of Point Roberts. So I have just an environmental concern that do we really need another impermeable surface in Point Roberts when just simply properly grading, providing the community with a piece of equipment that will make it possible for them to properly and routinely maintain the parking lot and the driveway up to it. If that would make a whole lot more sense than putting another impermeable surface. Impervious, yeah. Surface in Point Roberts. So comments and then I'm happy to take the issue back to Bennett Knox with the.
I have a question for you to ask Bennett Knox. Are they paving it because it's costing them too much to maintain the gravel, or are they paving it because the Department of Ecology's stormwater requirements are requiring them to filter anything that comes off of the parking lot? If it's the latter, there might be some other solutions than paving, but it would be good if we knew why they're choosing to pave it. Maintaining some other parking lots down in Blaine and Bellingham, we do have some strong pressure from ecology to capture stormwater that falls on parking lot areas where some cars drip oil and tire particles and things like that, and then run them through a filter that strips some of that water out before it becomes runoff. I wonder, I don't know the answer, but that would be a good question to ask them. That might lead you to their motivation for putting it in their budget.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question is why? And asking Bennett Knox, you know, why the decision was made to change. And because we can't really complain if we don't know why. You know, the reason could be, as we know, Lily Point, under the stormwater, is one of the areas that requires its own individual study. And is it part of the main study, because it was one of the 4 areas that was required to have its own study. So it may fall under that reasoning, as you said, you know, stormwater and such.
But wouldn't it be wise for the parks to wait until the study is complete?
Well, this is, you know, not going to happen next year. It's on their budget for a couple years from now.
Right.
But again, I would wanna know the answer to that question from Bennett Knox of why was this decision made? You know, so that we can get some background
Mhm.
to see if he's maybe foreshadowing, seeing that because we're having the stormwater and because of Lily Point, right, has all of the wetlands and everything else, that he was just thinking ahead.
Mhm. That Bennett Knox was thinking ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Our ecology is pushing.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my,
They don't want contaminants in the stormwater runoff. And one contaminant I've had to clean up for recently was potable drinking water. Got chlorine in it.
will you be interested to be coming in January or February when we get the report from Public Works and the engineers for the Point Roberts storm management? It's very interesting.
I think I saw the preliminary.
The preliminary?
Posted by this group online.
Yeah, yeah, so once that gets finalized, I think it's gonna create a whole nother can of worms.
Mhm.
So there's that. So anything else on that item, or just, Anel will follow up with Bennett Knox,
Mhm.
cause that's been her job lately.
Mhm.
Next is we had just added, the proposed changes to Title 22. Councilmember Galloway worked with, stakeholders, industry, had a couple of meetings, and then worked with PDS as well as writing her own amendments to Title 22. PDS has agreed to withdraw the requirement for a critical areas report before applying for any building permit. Until more work can be done with industry, developers and things like that, just so that they can work on that. The removal of the word Lammerd with the UGA definition for notification to 300 feet rather than us being in the 1,000-foot designation for rural. By the time we kind of got to that part, it was 2:30 in the morning during council and everybody was kind of tired. So I will be going to the next council meeting again, and requesting that until, areas in Whatcom County that are Lammerts, can be invited to the discussion to see how it will affect their communities and get their input, that PDS not add that language, to change the notification, from 1,000 feet down to 300 feet.
Mhm.
When's the next meeting?
The next county council meeting, oh, I just did that Tuesday, December 3rd is the next meeting, I think, yeah, Tuesday, December 3rd is the next council meeting. Where it will be an introduction, it actually got introduced, so it'll be
Public hearing.
a public hearing.
Public hearing, okay.
So, between now and then, you can write into, Whatcom County Council, if that is a concern. Like I said, for Point Roberts, we have us, we are codified that any conditional use or anything has to go through the PRCAC. We then notify the entire community. So for me, this isn't so much a Point Roberts issue because we are codified, to the PRCAC knowing, and then we tell everybody. Areas such as Glacier, Sudden Valley, Welcome, all of these other places, I lost, the list is about 20 places. They don't have that. They don't have a community advisory that's codified that has to get notified. So my concern is also that what's gonna happen is if it does change, it's not gonna be Point Roberts that goes to county council once a conditional use has been applied for, because we're all gonna know. It's going to be somewhere in Sudden Valley or somewhere like that, that's gonna end up going to council and go, we didn't know, you didn't tell us, right? try and prevent that from beforehand. Yes, Stephen?
Does the PRCAC's mandate for those type of reviews cover all of Point Roberts or just the areas like around?
All of Point Roberts that is conditional use. Anything that's conditional use that has to go to a hearing examiner, anything, we get notified of all of them.
Well, we're supposed to.
Yeah, I caught one. It's fine. I got it. Ken?
I would request that PRCAC writes a letter to Whatcom County Council regarding the proposed changes and emphasize the importance of stakeholder involvement before PDS gets to make any changes, and not just PDS, but all other departments of Whatcom County where they're making rules. When the regulators get left to their own devices to make the rules, they regulate harder. The spirit of SB 5290, which Planning and Development Services is supposed to be following, the spirit of the law is to try and get all building departments to help people over the hurdles of developing the property, try and make the timelines less, try and help everybody out. Whatcom County PDS had for about 15 years now has been a no department. Try again. We aren't gonna tell you exactly why we're not happy with it, but take another kick at the can, and you waste all your time spinning your wheels trying to figure it out. And then they say, oh, no, we don't like that either. So if the PRCAC could, and you and I know all too well how much time we've spent. And if it wasn't for your involvement and mine and other septic professionals that got the ball rolling, we would have had this forced upon us. The changes that PDS wanted. So if the PRCAC could write a letter to an effect that that PDS tries to follow the spirit of the law, where it might need new leadership or something at PDS, but they need to be changing their program to somehow become more of a yes, how can we help you department instead of try again.
I had received, prior to our meeting, a request from the Taxpayers Association, things that I was, part of that, stakeholders group, just because of the OSS, to state the Taxpayers Association's unanimous vote to request that it not be changed. I would suggest that Brian writes that letter. Just to maybe say until, I did say at council, I have not had a chance to completely bring this to the community because we did not find out about it until I was part of the stakeholder. Because we were actually talking about, the car portion as it referred to, OSS and water. And my dumb bunny self decided to read, after I read the Senate bill, decided to read all of Title 22 and all the changes inside of 22. And when I got to page 31, happened to see it.
Wow.
So that PDS hold off, like they're holding off on the car requirement and other things until they can get more stakeholder engagement, community engagements. Whether the PRCAC, we would reach out to our community, but other areas, like I said, such as Sudden Valley and stuff, they can go to their Chamber of Commerce or another community group to maybe get feedback, prior to, making a decision, or at least if people don't have a will one way or the other, at least then the communities will have been notified ahead of time. So we don't get what happens a lot of the time at county council, which is everybody says, I didn't know, now this is happening, and now I'm going to go stand in county council and scream at county council because something got changed that we didn't know about, right? you know, just being more, I don't know, forthwith, yeah. So if everybody's good with that,
Are you good with writing that letter?
I believe so. You wanted, prior to you're gonna go back on the December 3rd, is that right?
I'm going to go back on December 3rd, but if you can write the letter and send it to the council email,
Yeah,
just, you know, requesting the hold.
yeah.
Same as the Taxpayers Association requested, and, you know,
On that specific date for continuance too, or?
I leave it until stakeholder and community engagement can be
Okay.
completed.
If you could include that they try and follow the spirit of SB 5290.
Yeah.
Which is to try and make planning and development services in all counties of Washington state to be helpful in permit processing and getting processed in a more timely manner.
I'll send you the Senate bill.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have insomnia,
Yeah, I don't wanna throw a timeline at it because it's gonna be different. I don't
No,
know what the, you know.
Okay.
The health department's been working on their changes to Title 24 for what, 6 months already?
with a technical advisory
With- yeah.
group of stakeholders.
And yeah, they're not quite done.
At least the OSS part of the health department involved professionals, and right now they're working with realtors and other stakeholders to get their inputs, and we have a couple more meetings on the OSS part of it. Prior to Whatcom County's, prior to going to the council for
Title 24.
for Title 24. Changes that have to be done by March 1st, so.
Yeah, to me,
They at least
new
met
state
their
law.
timeline. PDS was informed of this back in July of 23. And they took 15 months for themselves without involving anybody. Other than themselves, their own staff. And then they were trying to step on in front of the OSS part of health department. And luckily, the lady Haley Garuza that is in charge of the OSS division, put it up to all industry professionals, and it raised a lot of hackles, and people wanted to get involved, and luckily there was some of us that did.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure as a career bureaucrat, I can.
I'll send you the,
Strongly worded.
Put those skills to good.
I'll send you the Senate bill.
He's really good at strongly worded.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't even appear to be strongly worded, but it's strongly
Yeah.
worded.
I'm
That's how good he is.
Correct enough to write it.
He's
Yeah,
not
well, that's how
politically
good he
correct
is.
Can someone enlighten me, please? What does OSS stand?
On-site sewage.
So, yep, Title 22's been fun.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least we got it stopped and it didn't get.
It's a work in progress.
We're making progress on it. It's getting, it's a better version. I don't think it's the best version that we could have yet, but it's definitely better than what they were trying to force upon us.
What's next on your agenda?
I was gonna say, so the next item on our agenda is we need to change our December meeting date. Our scheduled normal date would have been the 18th. But as always, we need to move that one. It is the elementary school holiday bazaar and show here at the community center. So, we need to, move ourselves. Obviously, we're not doing it the following, because that would be the 25th.
Why not?
I am not hanging out with Santa that night.
Okay,
I get to hang out with Santa on the 7th.
I got it.
So I'm just gonna pull up the Parks Board calendar to make sure we aren't on anybody else's toes. I should have this calendar memorized, excuse me for that. Hey, Steven, what's the December calendar? Who's on what day?
See, I don't think I have it on my phone.
Okay, hold on, so that we,
You're going that far out, you're not gonna hit
Yeah,
anybody.
you want,
Less than ten, are the taxpayers having a meeting that week? When is that, second?
There's
Thursday.
they're the second.
Or the second. So
they're
you're-
the second, they're the third.
If you're in the third week, you're probably safe
Yeah.
pretty much
I
anything.
think they're the 12th.
They have the 12th, they potluck on the
They
12th.
changed it, yeah, they're doing the
meeting on
12.
the 12th.
Yeah, the potluck
Yeah,
is on the
it's
12th.
Why don't we do Tuesday the 17th? Nobody else has it for Tuesday the 17th.
Okay.
We're just doing it 2 days early.
All right, that's fine.
So I will make a motion to move our meeting to
I'll second it.
Tuesday, December 17th
I'll second the motion.
at 7 PM.
7 PM.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Jared says aye.
Aye.
Okay, last public comment. Anybody have anything else exciting for us? Online? No?
I'm sorry he's not here. I want to acknowledge Lauren Nielsen. As you drive by the road down to the storage, if you look down there, you'll notice that there is a significant drop in lumens. So Lauren has installed downward shields
Oh, good.
on all of the light fixtures there. So we've made some real progress. And I intend to send him all sorts of kudos in terms of keeping our skies as dark as possible, or restoring our skies.
Lee, you had something?
Yeah, Leo was talking about the cable. Did he fall asleep
No, we already talked about it.
for the second time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm the one that fell asleep. Okay.
you
thank
missed it. Okay, so anybody who doesn't know, my last little bit is on Friday, the 6th, there will be a showing of the Polar Express here at the community center. We will have hot dogs and nachos and all kinds of other goodies on Saturday. And popcorn. Saturday, we have the light up bike ride and we will have Santa, we will have goodies. So come down to the community center and enjoy Friday, Saturday and Sunday with us.
Are they gonna do the riding at the bike ride too, or?
Yeah, it'll be here. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I move.
Aye. Thank you. Elliot, I have a quick question for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.